1966. American analysts saw a gigantic shadow skimming the Caspian Sea, too low for radar and too fast for logic. It had a wingspan wider than a Boeing 747 and 10 roaring jet engines. The Soviets had built something NATO could not classify. It was a machine feared as the Caspian Sea Monster. If this secret beast could cross Western defenses unseen, what else was hidden below the radar? NATO's radar shield in the 1950s and the 1960s was built for a different threat. High above, American and European arrays swept the skies for bombers and missiles. Their beams arced out to the horizon. But the horizon itself was a weakness. Radar waves cannot bend with the curve of the Earth. Anything flying low enough, just meters above the sea, vanished into a blind zone, invisible to early warning stations perched on coastlines. The lower an object flew, the closer it could get before detection. For Soviet planners, this gap was more than a technical detail. It was an opportunity. If a strike platform could skim the water at high speed, it might cross hundreds of kilometers before radar even noticed. Ships and submarines relied on sonar and surface search, but neither could catch a fast-moving target hugging the waves. The Caspian Sea, isolated and away from prying Western eyes, offered the perfect place to test something that could slip through this unseen corridor. The vulnerability was clear. A machine that could exploit the radar gap would force NATO to rethink its entire coastal defense. The search was on for a new kind of weapon, one that could travel at jet speeds, stay below the radar, and turn a flaw in Western technology into a Soviet advantage. The answer lay in a phenomenon that seemed almost magical to early engineers: ground effect. When a wing moves just above a flat surface, like the calm water of the Caspian Sea, something unusual happens. Air trapped between the wing and the surface builds pressure, forming an invisible cushion. This cushion lifts the craft higher than the same wing could manage in open air, while also cutting down on drag. The effect grows stronger the closer the wing flies to the water. At just a few meters up, a plane can gain as much as 50% more lift, all while burning less fuel than at altitude. For designers, this meant the possibility of a machine that could glide at jet speeds, just above the waves, and stay hidden from radar. The idea was simple in theory, but the potential was enormous. If harnessed, ground effect could turn a bulky, heavy craft into something that moved with the grace of a low-flying bird, fast, efficient, and almost invisible to the tools of conventional detection. The Soviets saw not just a loophole in Western defenses, but a new category of vehicle, one that could cross vast distances at speeds no ship could match, while remaining nearly invisible to anyone watching from above. The ground effect principle offered a tantalizing promise: the power to rewrite the rules of sea and air warfare. Nothing in the Soviet arsenal prepared the world for the scale of the KEM, the machine that would become the Caspian Sea Monster. Stretching nearly 100 meters from nose to tail, it dwarfed the largest bombers and even outspanned the Boeing 747. The wings alone measured almost 38 meters, wide enough to cast a shadow over a football field. At full load, it weighed more than 500 tons, yet it was designed to lift off and glide just a few meters above the water's surface. The heart of this beast was its power. 10 Dobrynin turbojet engines, 8 mounted in a row along the nose and 2 more at the tail, gave the KM a roar that could be heard for miles across the Caspian. These engines blasted air beneath the wings, creating a cushion that let the craft skim the sea at speeds up to 500 kilometers per hour. It was unlike anything else, not quite a plane and not a ship. It belonged to a new category, born from the mind of Rostislav Alexeyev, a designer who had already made his name with Soviet hydrofoils. Alexeyev believed in ground effect, and he convinced his team and the Soviet leadership that a machine this size could ride an invisible cushion of air. Test pilots faced a cockpit that looked out over a vast, slab-sided hull with instruments more suited to an airliner than a boat. Flying the KM demanded nerves of steel. At speed, it floated on a razor-thin margin between water and sky. Every meter of altitude and every gust of wind mattered. The Caspian Sea Monster was not just an experiment in engineering. It was a leap into the unknown, powered by ambition and the relentless drive to outpace the West. In the summer of 1966, a series of grainy satellite photographs landed on the desks of Western intelligence analysts. What they revealed sent a jolt through every NATO briefing room. Floating on the Caspian Sea was a craft so large and so strange that no one could agree on what they were looking at. It moved across the water at the speed of a jet, yet left a wake like a ship. Its silhouette, wings wide and hull flat, did not match any known aircraft or vessel. The usual categories broke down instantly. Was it a new kind of bomber, a ship, or something else entirely? The confusion deepened as more images arrived. The object seemed to defy the logic of Cold War intelligence. It was bigger than any existing plane, yet it never appeared on radar tracking high-altitude threats. Its location, far from any major naval base, only added to the mystery. Unable to classify the craft, Western analysts reached for a name that captured their unease. The files began to refer to it as the Caspian Sea Monster. The name was not just a code, it was a signal of genuine alarm. Declassified reports from the era show analysts circling the same questions. Could this machine carry nuclear weapons? Was it a new delivery platform capable of striking targets before defenses could react? Or was it meant to hunt NATO ships, skimming in under radar and launching a surprise attack? The nickname stuck, and so did the anxiety. Intelligence agencies scrambled to piece together the craft's purpose. Every new photograph, every intercepted radio transmission, became a potential clue in a puzzle that seemed to get stranger with each answer. The Caspian Sea Monster was no longer just a technical curiosity. It was a potential threat that forced NATO planners to reconsider what was possible in the next phase of military strategy. Soviet engineers pushed the ekranoplan concept to its fiercest form with the Lun class. This was not a prototype or a testbed. It was a weapon built for speed and shock. The Lun's hull stretched nearly 74 meters. Its wings swept wider than most airliners, and the 8 NK-187 turbofans mounted along the back could drive it across the water at over 500 kilometers per hour. Missiles bristled along its spine, each one designed to strike ships far beyond the reach of traditional torpedoes or artillery. At these speeds, a Lun could close the distance to a NATO carrier group before radar screens even flickered. The goal was simple: deliver a crippling blow before Western defenses had time to react. Every detail, from the reinforced hull to the missile launch rails, was shaped by the doctrine of rapid, overwhelming attack. For Alexeyev's team, the Lun represented the ultimate gamble, a machine that could rewrite the rules of naval warfare if only it could be controlled. In war games, its simulated strikes left carrier formations in ruins, and Soviet planners imagined a future where no Western fleet was safe, even deep at sea. On the Caspian, the promise of the ekranoplan collided with reality. Pilots faced a machine that demanded constant attention, every second a struggle to keep it balanced between water and sky. In rough weather, the risks multiplied. One storm after another battered the test crews. The KM's massive hull was never truly at home on choppy waves. Even with reinforced structures and new control systems, the craft was prone to sudden pitch changes. One moment gliding smoothly, the next lurching dangerously close to disaster. Fuel tanks drained at an astonishing rate, limiting every mission's range and draining the program's budget. Training new pilots became a test of nerve and luck. Each flight exposed the thin line between control and catastrophe. The final blow came not from a single accident, but from a steady accumulation of failures, spiraling costs, and the grim arithmetic of a nation straining under economic pressure. By the end, the Caspian Sea Monster was no longer a symbol of Soviet ambition, but a reminder of its limits. Today, militaries still chase radar-evading technology, but nothing matches the sheer audacity of the ekranoplan. As the line between war machines and science fiction blurs, its legacy is a warning. In every arms race, imagination can be more destabilizing than firepower. Some legends never fully sink. What do you think?